Hello, everyone. I'm glad for everyone who's here to be able to join us that late or that early. I'm not sure anymore, as there's people from 10 a.m. as well, I guess. But just to introduce myself, on a daily basis, I run a website security company, WebArcs, and next to that, I'm one of the organizers, or CTF Pärnu, which holds hacking competitions here in Estonia. And just recently, we also opened a physical hackerspace here. So who's here for the first time? This webinar series is meant to give more of a human touch to cybersecurity. We want to know how people who work in the field got into it and what was their journey like. So hopefully this can be inspiration for many. So today with us is Kieren, who I believe right now is the head of CERT in Taltech. So without further ado, I think I'm really happy to have you here, Kieren, and maybe you can tell us a little bit about what you're doing, what's your background, and who let you close to the computers in the first place.
It's a bit weird in my position at the moment. So I work at Taltech, but I also work at the University of Cambridge in King's and Pembroke College. And I also work for a number of startups as well. So as well as Cranfield Defence, which is a Ministry of Defence university in the UK as well. So I'm kind of in the private sector, in academia, and in defence, because I'm really super weird. But the major element, there's some reoccurring themes that come across, and that is actually understanding how you handle an incident when it goes wrong. One of the really interesting things that's happened within our area at the moment is we've kind of made cybersecurity something new and shiny. And in reality, while the approaches and the technical aspects are new and shiny, the problem is the same as it's always been. I mean, the first recorded spear phishing attack was actually in the 17th century. It was called the Spanish prisoner scam. You've lost a long lost uncle who's very, very rich. And if you buy 1 truck worth of gold, you'll get 10 trucks worth of gold on his return. The difference was they knocked on the door of the Lord then and researched using the village hall. Now you've got Google and email. So it is the Nigerian email scam.
Yeah.
But one of the areas that I'm trying to practice is what we've done within warfare and what we've done within IT is, and I know you'll nod in agreement with this, cybersecurity is the IT department's problem. That's it. Nobody else's. It's not the users. It's not the companies. It's not the customers. It's just the cybersecurity department. And in reality, we know it isn't. It's everybody's problem. So what we've been doing in the exercises is rather than just having the technical teams find an unpatched box and to fix it, to actually get them to go, okay, this is what happens when it goes out. This is the impact, either on the organization, when we've been doing it with companies, or with militaries, it would be, well, even if you do take that offline to patch it, you've now just lost the water supply for that village. Is that an acceptable risk? So to get them to actually think about that cybersecurity isn't actually a separate domain, it's connected into everything we do now, that is the change. The change is that we need to think about it in a very systemic way, not just it's a technical problem.
And I believe also to demystify it a lot, as people really think that hacking and everything is kind of like this matrix code behind me and all that kind of stuff. But in reality, the more we look into it, it's as you said, like these scams and phishing and whatnot. The human element is really the one of the largest issues there, right?
No, definitely, and we are very key in making it worse. To be honest, there's a really interesting psychological theory called labeling theory. I don't know if anyone's heard of it, but you've definitely experienced it. If any of you have ever met a teenage boy, a teenager, if you call him a complete cock up and you constantly say, why are you cocking everything up? They will eventually comply. They will cock up. They will act like they are. And we do this with our users. When somebody falls for something, we end up calling them an idiot or laughing at their silly password. We all do it. I'm not going to be all high and mighty. I do it too. The problem is when we do that, they repeat. You really do have to treat your users as an asset, as a trust, and that trust can be really, really established. And it's very easy to go straight to blaming them, which then causes the detrimental approach that we seem to have, where the IT doesn't get the problems because they have no trust in reporting it to them. They'll be scared. They'll be, ruined. I've even seen some glorious employment contracts that say if you introduce malware into the organization, you will be dismissed. And then you just ask them the question, how many people have ever reported malware? None. No. Yeah. Of course.
And I think like in this case, if you have like this kind of culture where, you kind of point fingers on the people who have made the mistakes. And even though the same mistakes could actually be done also by very professional, even cybersecurity experts in some cases, where they just fall for very well-crafted phishing, for example. But with the people who are not in there, and if you point fingers at them, they will never, they just start hiding. And I think that's the worst thing that can really happen, is that when at one point everyone is doing mistakes, but nobody's talking about that.
Look, let's be completely honest. Most of us completely are do as I say, not as I do. Don't click links and emails. I will put my hand on my heart. I clicked that Zoom link you sent me. I did not type that in manually. I did not copy and paste it. I clicked it. Don't open emails from anybody you don't know. Well, I have emails from people I don't know constantly throughout the time. I'm always going to open people's emails. Don't open PDF documents or doc from random people. Do you not want anybody to take that position for that job that you're hiring for? Because you really don't want it in LaTeX format or plain text. You want it in a doc or a PDF. Yeah. So we've got to kind of realize that you can be secure if you really want to be, but you're probably living in a cave with no internet. So we've got to kind of move and adjust with the times to understand that we can't just beat people with policies that we can't even follow ourselves. And what's really interesting in that is one of the things we do here at Taltech and for the British Army is we run an exercise where I get my students to do a full OSINT profile on a number of cybersecurity experts who have given me permission to do so. We tell them within Monday to Friday, you will get a spear phishing email from us. Do not click it. Don't click it. Do not click it. And if you click it, you owe me a crate of beer. If you don't click it, I owe you a crate of beer. So far, we have 100% success rate. Everybody clicks. We've had over 23 of these now from cybersecurity. Everybody will click it because I have another ace up my sleeve. If you click with the wise students in Cambridge, if you click the link, if they get to click it, they don't have to do the cryptographic exam.
Well, that's good candy for, making a good phishing email.
It definitely gets the motivation to make sure they know everything about that person before they even send that email. I have never seen students put that much time in revision until they can get out of a cryptographic exam. So reproducing that motivation, it kind of tells us what me and you have said for ages since day dot, Oliver, is you're only protected against drive-bys if somebody's really, really wanting to get into your account. They will. Yeah.
And that literally proves the point that when, there is this kind of conception that, if you click on these emails, then you're stupid, It's like people think that, I can't tell anyone that I got infected with malware, or I don't know, I was falling for a phishing email because everyone thinks that I'm stupid. But in this case, as you are also presenting right now, I mean, these are people who are in the cybersecurity, who are actually, experts in the field, and you have 100% success rate.
Yeah, and I'll also put my own hand up. At one time in Cambridge, we had, it was a relatively quiet day, 0 emails in. At 12 o'clock, I went for a cup of tea and came back and had 250 emails. There was a big incident that was going on, a big spear phishing campaign with Emotet behind it. And while I was in muscle memory mode, hacking away through all these things, I clicked it. Yeah. I clicked it too, but the difference is I knew bugger, should have done that. Ripped out the Ethernet cable and threw the computer away and got another one out and worried about that later. But I will fully admit, I did it, and it was during an incident. And there's, I think even if I told myself 2 minutes before, don't do it, I still would have done, because of the whole situation that's going on and you're trying to take charge.
Yeah, it makes sense. But to rewind a little bit, can you tell us a little bit about how the hell did you get into this in the first place? How did you get into computers? How did you find that cybersecurity is something that might be interesting to work on, for example? And what's your story really?
Well, when I was a lovely 6-year-old, I got a Sinclair Spectrum ZX81 and absolutely loved it. It was a real start. So from 6, I started to learn Sinclair Basic. And then went into BBC Basic on a BBC microcomputer. So very old machines, and still a language I play around with today occasionally because it confuses the hell out of everyone. Yeah. But then after that, when I got to around about 17, 18 years old, I was a bit lost, to be honest. I didn't know really what I wanted to do. And so I ended up, I was going to join the Air Force, of all things. But luckily this isn't BBC television, so I can swear. The Air Force guy was a complete arsehole. I really didn't like him. And the Navy guy was lovely. And he offered me a cup of tea, and I ended up joining the submarine service.
That's very British, though.
Very British, yes. A cup of tea was offered, and that was enough for me. A cup of tea, 1 sugar, milk, stirred anti-clockwise, and that was enough. So I went into the submarine service, but not as cybersecurity at the start. I was a communicator and cryptographic specialist. But more and more, as my career progressed, I realized that the security element is what was really, really interesting. And what was, before I even knew the term of it, I was noticing that in my warfare exercises and real operations, I was doing social engineering. I was doing OSINT, working out what the enemy positions were and working out to try and predict what they were doing next. And more from my naval career, I ended up going into the understanding the social engineering side. And that's when I left the Royal Navy to go to the Norwegians, and we started to set up a cyber warfare department for the Norwegian frigate weapon. And then we got to use the OSINT skills very successfully during Operation Ocean Shield, which is in Somalia, controlling the pirate threat. And OSINT was an essential godsend then, because we could collect good intelligence and protect shipping from there. And then when I left the military and went into Cambridge University, it was an ideal time to really test the skills, because Cambridge University is a very unique place. It's 33 colleges or 31 colleges, depending on which legal document you read. They're all independent. Academic freedom is through the roof, and it's very much like a country. Anyone can do what they want, but you don't want them to do anything bad. So it was a really exciting time. They're not as sensible as you have in the Baltic with nice, clean, glorious networks. There's always the sentence at Cambridge that Cambridge is the biggest digital private network in Europe, but that's only because it's so batshit crazy that that it has to be that wide and big. But it was good fun, and did an awful lot of the investigations, got to really test your skills, and you worked out very quickly that you have to try very hard just to stay one step behind, not 10 steps. And the thing I learned most about that, and why I ended up going into the exercise side, is the creativity. That is what's missing from a number of our technical exercises and our training. We lack creativity. We generally do the attacks we've seen, which, to be honest, are the ones that won't work because we've seen them. So we're not as creative and working out how to do it. And the mindset we kind of want to get to, and where I saw where we're at, is you kind of want to be like a crazy ex-partner. A bit of a stalker who's determined to learn everything about that system or you to work out how to get in and break it. That's the type of thing that you want to kind of protect against, because they've got the creativity, they've got the knowledge, and they've got the ability to crank that lever. Yeah. And that's, trying to work that out is sometimes very hard, but fun.
I've noticed this too, actually, from like, I've been to numerous defense forces exercises as well, and noticed the thing that, you know, you're in most cases still using the same kind of things that are already being used for years, and just because they are, I think there's also the fact that they are afraid that you actually fuck up the exercises, because if you're using something that is, you know, too successful in terms of as an attack vector, for example, then, and they can't kind of expect that to happen, there could be consequences, right? So they want to actually know what you are exercising. If you give too much.
This is where me and you are on the same side, and I'll make this publicly, Oliver. I'd love you to come and do some attacks with us, because one of the things I like on my exercises is I honestly don't know all of the time what the end result will be. And that's good, because it's much better to find this out in an exercise than it is in reality. Yeah. So I would love to say that most of my time when we consult businesses or universities or military, I'm doing a lot of technical analytics, telling out how they got in. In reality, it's communications training. Making sure that the system administrator can communicate to the chief information security officer or the director what the problem really is in a language he can understand. Yeah. And that the directors and the management can communicate in a way to the technical staff that they understand what they need to do. It's much easier to do that with the scenario you said, where, yes, you do fuck it up. The whole exercise has gone completely wrong. Great. Now find out how the hell you fix it and write every one of those bits down. Yeah. Because if you've done it in an exercise, the only thing stopping it happening in real life is somebody pressing enter.
Weren't there like a saying that make it hard on the exercises so it would be easier on the war or something? There is a saying like that, but right now I think it works the opposite, really. I mean, the exercises are not that hard, really. And if you actually would look at the real scenarios, or actually the war is going on the web all the time. So, you know, the things that are happening there, you know, there's no rules there. So in the exercises, why are there so many strict rules for, you know?
I'm going to do some really bad drawing here. But one of the things that I like to kind of explain to people of where we go wrong on the cyber exercises. I'm going to go take another color. I like my technical. But when we do exercise training, we generally do it like the red line. We start off really, really slow. A couple of exercises happen, we get a bit higher up, and then by the end of Thursday, woo, it's all crazy. Yeah. Well, reality is we would have blocked the hell out of that before it got to that crescendo.
Yeah.
If you haven't, you've got the worst cert team ever. How many times has these 10 IPs been hammering us? All day. What? Block it. So how we do it is the way that you're saying, which is it will be complete chaos. They've been analyzing your network. They've been understanding your processes and how your systems are. They're only going to hit you when they know it's going to work. Mm-hmm. So once it's got to chaos and you then eventually take charge of it, as you take charge, then it slowly gets better until it gets boring. That's how we should practice it. Because the quicker you activate your startup, the quicker that people start doing the things they practice, like you said, the quicker it will become under control and the quicker you'll be able to take the situation in hand. It's like, sorry, I'm going to plug your company now, but with your tool, it reduces the time from noticing it to actually making sure that there's no damage. Yeah, time reduction is the important thing, because then they're minor incidents, if there even is one. But you really don't want to find out that minor incident's been there 2 weeks. Then it's amazing. To be able to act on it, you know. I mean, the reaction is where we're key. And what I've ended up doing is stealing an awful lot of the stuff from the military in the way that they do exercises, which is based on one sentence, really. Train as you fight, fight as you train. So if you do it like this in war, this is how we do it in reality. Don't deviate, don't constantly make sure the environment in your cyber range is so fake that it would never actually happen. I wonder if in some cases, like the cyber ranges would be like completely different reality from what it is, actually happening. I've been wondering that. The case. I've actually seen some customers that have better patched cyber ranges and better patched honeypots than they do on their actual hardware. It's your honeypot is better patched than your actual main database system. You might want to focus on that. And it's the same with a lot of cyber ranges. But there can be the emphasis on being too much on the PR and the look, and also the desire that at the end of the exercise, you must win. And it doesn't work that way. And I think the must win is really one of the key points here, actually, to make sure that, we can say that, the exercises were super successful, Yeah, whereas from my aspect, when I was putting a ship through sea, and if they failed, I don't mind them failing. I mind them if they repeat the same failures. Also, the success, I think, is kind of different, whether if the success is that, we blocked 10 out of the 10 threats during the exercise, or we learn 10 different ways to actually, avoid these kind of threats or block these threats in the future. And I think you've hit the nail right on the head. The lessons learned is so important. And the result is kind of good. Put a badge on, you can have a gold star if you want it. But understand actually where you went wrong, do you know where you went wrong? And can you make sure that you don't repeat it? And document it, practice it. It gives you a lovely guide to tell you how you need to do training for your team, or training for your security team, or your own personal training. What do you need to do? Every day's a school day in cybersecurity, and that's a good word. You can write that down. I think we just all need to embrace that we're not all specialists in everything. Yeah, we're good at something, but we always really need to learn. And if you don't know exactly how to do it, as long as you know somebody to ask, somebody to get out. And I think that leads me to the kind of other thing that I dislike about our industry, which I really like about what you do, Oliver, as well, is, and myself, we like to hide what's happened. We laugh at other people, like we mentioned earlier, but when something's happened to us, we don't like to mention it. And I know that with your platform, with the spikes that happened with COVID, you set up a platform to distribute the spearphishing attempts that were coming in, the different types of attacks. I think this is essential. The threat databases, if they're just IoTs, then they're not very helpful to us. But if you can see actually how they did the attack and to share it and to understand that the need to know in principle is important, but the responsibility to share is far more important. If it's happened to us, there's a good chance it's going to happen to somebody else.
What I sometimes like about like the startup culture, for example, where I'm very deeply involved, right, is the there's like this failure culture, you know. It's like you embrace failure more than anything. There is a saying that you if you don't fail, that means you don't learn, and that you're actually staying on on a position. Basically, you're not moving on any direction pretty much, or you could actually even move on an opposite direction that you would actually want to move. I think that, like, I when I was starting to do these webinars as well, I was actually thinking about or started to do these webinars, I was thinking about bringing that narrative also in, which is in startup ecosystem. There is a very popular event kind of series called Founder Stories. So this is the one that I kind of try to touch with these webinars. But there's another series that is very popular, is like a fuck up nights. And this is where you completely just, get yourself naked on the stage pretty much and just tell how badly you fucked up. And I think that's something that people would learn a lot from, but that actually embraces the person to evolve and to actually, move further as a identity or as a person, or actually provide this kind of information to a wider audience as well. So this kind of takes out this hiding element, like, I clicked that link, I hope nobody knows, because they all think I'm stupid then.
I completely agree. And this is part of the area that I think that I've taken on board as well. The fuck up, standing up there in front of everyone and saying, this is how we got it wrong. And this is what I did wrong, is so important, because it also adds an extra element. I won't recover everything you've said, but an extra element. People don't trust you if you've never done anything wrong. We are humans. Yeah. It is trust. And your security department, along with all of the other areas, should come up and say this. Whenever a major incident happens, it is the result of lots of minor fuck-ups. It will have been the database manager didn't ask for the right tools in order to make the system patched. Or he did ask, but it was ignored. Or there was a cost-cutting measure somewhere, or staff reduction. This is really, 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 really hard, but it's important. And as Christian's just commented on the chat, it is a really hard cultural shift.
It is.
What I did find is it's easier if one of you takes the first step. And once somebody high up does that step, the rest follow. They really do. And it's just, you need somebody with that confidence to say, yeah, I messed up. And then other people will start to open up. There is a certain other ways we can do this, though, which will make sure that the current cultural climate cements itself well and truly. And it's been a bit of a plague, pardon the pun, with COVID, phishing attacks against your users for metrics. They're like Fish Me and those type of attacks. Yeah. I'm not saying don't do them. I'm saying if you are going to do them intelligently. a university who will remain nameless, though I don't know why I rename nameless, the amount of ethics they did, I should name them. They actually did this phishing attack, and then everybody that clicked the link, they wrote their names on a piece of paper and put them on the door of the IT building.
Oh my God.
And with the words shame list written at the top
Christ.
Of it, and forwarded it to every one of their line managers as a negative for their annual report. This resulted in only one thing: the complete lack of trust with the computer emergency response team of that organisation. Roll on 6 months, we had the same incident at Cambridge as this other university. I got about 25 users who sent us the email through our Sweet campaign. Every time you reported some malware, you can pop to our office and get a sweetie.
Yeah, I actually know a company as well who does the same thing with phishing. So they know that every month there is a phishing campaign, and basically they have gamified that within the company. So if you report that you found a phishing link or you found something suspicious, and that was like an actual thing, you get basically a score, and there is a scoreboard of who are the kind of most badass guys in the company who, report some shady stuff. I think this, and then, once you get the high score in your company, people want to actually look into that as well. And, they kind of feel that is like a game. So gamification actually works really, really well. And I know this company has fairly high rate of actually being, all over the kind of, different whenever this is like a marketing department, or whether it's engineering department or whatnot, everyone has fairly high percentage of people who actually detect the stuff, because they're already so used to looking for these things which are suspicious, because they get some points and they can get some swag.
Yeah, and the result is we detected it 6 times on our network, shut it down instantly. We were fine. I went and had a gin and tonic at 4 o'clock because it was a quiet day. And the other university had 1,500 infected terminals. Ooh. Because nobody reported it, because screw you.
Yeah, that's the shame. The shaming thing is so bad.
If you're going to gamify it to reward the winners, not name the losers. Yeah. Having the bottom of the list being the only thing you print is not good, especially as that connects with labeling theory. Well, that's an example in action. They will comply. Additionally, don't do it too aggressively, because you will naturally see people click links in emails less, but that will also include productive work-related emails, which people need to do. So if you're just doing it for metrics, then no, not a great approach. You won't be under a cyber attack, but you won't have any customers either. So
yeah, I haven't thought about that. I guess it would be interesting to see some statistics around that, if the companies have done it, and how much their internal emails are going to be not clicked and replied to.
I think the desire to constantly do metrics over content isn't just negative to that; it's negative to a lot of things. When we do the cybersecurity training for users, most of the time you see them, they're 1.5 hours long, boring as hell, click next a lot, detect the obvious, without any learning ability. And the one thing we did learn at Cambridge is little and often is better.
Yeah.
Just pick one topic and do 1 2-minute video. That's it. Don't completely bombard everybody with your entire information security policy, because, we can do it on here actually, Oliver, so I can have my tradition. All of the people that are participating, write yes or no if you've actually read your information security policy. No.
What's that?
No. Right. We have one? Yes, we do, Bergie. Yeah, this is the an amazing thing that we do. I did this at the Microsoft conference in Europe, and 4 people out of an audience of 600 put their hands up. And then I just told them, 4 people that had their hands up, did you keep your hand up if you wrote it? And they did. It was, yeah, if your policy is what you use to fire people with after they violate it. That's pretty much it.
Yeah.
Good question there from Krista. What's the best way to teach end users about phishing emails? One of the ways I've learned is actually teaching them how to do it.
Good point.
Showing them how to spoof email addresses, because it kind of breaks what Oliver was saying with the whole magic matrix shit that they think we do. Yeah. Spoofing an email is a doddle. It's absolutely, you can do it in a GUI, you can do it on command line if you want to be crazy. It's incredibly doddle. I mean, you can even use Gmail by going through the smtp-relay.gmail.com and then just being whoever you want to be, including Google. It has a flaw where it will allow you to do it. So I do definitely think that teaching them how to do it, and then they can understand when they're doing it what the limitations are. And if they know what those limitations are, they can understand, okay, the reply to field. Okay, if I am crafting the email within the text, it sometimes looks a bit different if it's a different key mat difference or a different key material. It's sometimes a really good exercise to do just for like half an hour with administrators, with normal people, not cyber warfare geekies, to just show them how to do it, and they'll remember it more. If we just show 10 spear phishing emails that we probably are all spear phishing emails because they're all fake, well, it doesn't really give people much memory to recall back on. So that's how I've done it, and it's been quite successful. But I'm interested in your ideas as well, because I'm not too sure. On the training with 1.5, I've done it as a video, and I've done it as a webinar. So it really is that easy. After 5 minutes, you can pretty much teach anybody to spoof an email, and then they'll understand how they will go from there. But you have to be creative, I think. And
you also have to make sure that these 1.5K people actually look at it.
Yes. And I think on the looking at it, that's where I really stress the little and often. Nobody wants to see a PowerPoint slide with 962 to go on the bottom right-hand corner, and no one wants to see the next slide. So trying to do it in a way where it's short, little and often. On the comment there from metrics, I'm not saying metrics are bad, just make sure you take the right metrics. Are you actually trying to measure if people have looked at it, or are you just trying to measure it for a PowerPoint presentation at the end of the year to say how successful something was? It can be a bit, the demand on metrics can sometimes be a bit disjointed. What are you trying to do? And the question should be, we're trying to protect our users and the organization. That's what it should be. Unfortunately, it sometimes can be, how many people did we get? It becomes us gamifying it against the users.
There was another question from Yusuf. He wrote, do you think that the concept of information security policy for employees will go away in the near future? Or will it be kept there so that there's a basis to fire someone?
I think it will change because, well, one of the things that's happened over the years with these information policies is they've become bigger and bigger because no one's actually wrote one. They've gone to the internet, they've found one, and they've copied and pasted it and then bolted some extra bits on it.
Yeah.
And I always like laughing at the UK. I loved the first line of the one we had at Cambridge before it was changed. You will abide by the laws of the United Kingdom. Well, yeah. There's no one's going to arrest me and say you've been arrested because you've violated Cambridge University information security policy, you're still bound by the law. And we'll add a lot of these things to it to make it longer and longer to get to the point of where Christian said, fire safety policy, 200 pages. Yeah, no one's reading that. And so what I think will happen is they'll get shorter and actually more to the point.
Nobody's even reading terms and conditions, so, I mean...
No. What I do say is, what I have seen as successful is when you're a lot shorter, tell people how they can do something rather than tell people what they can't do. I mean, we used to say Dropbox is banned at Cambridge, but with 26,000 active Dropbox accounts on a daily basis, it wasn't really successful as a ban, really, because you needed to do it for your job. So enable people to tell them how they can do it better.
Yeah. I have another question for you, actually. The sector really moves, so fast, as you said. Like it's a struggle not to keep or try to be one step ahead, as a lot of marketing materials of cybersecurity companies say. But instead to stay at least not at least 10 steps behind, right? Or try to be one step behind. So since the sector really evolves so fast, how do you keep yourself updated with all the latest stuff?
With great difficulty. I honestly think the best thing is directly connected to what you're saying with your fuck up night. Definitely do communicate these things. But the networks that we've established here in communicating with the local community, where you can have a bit of Chatham House rules, it all stays in the group, where you can honestly stress test and actually have some arguments. Do really, really push about it in a way where you get to fight and actually discuss in a nice way, because we're all trying to achieve the objective to look after our information and protect people. But how we get there is really different. I mean, for one example, I put my hand up 100%. I am useless on an Apple Mac. If there is an Apple Mac infection, throw it away. I don't do fruit-based computing. I do Linux all the way. Even Windows, I notice my skills are deteriorating quite rapidly because I just don't use it on a daily basis.
I have same thing with Windows.
Yeah, I struggle, and I know I've also got, but I think identifying those struggles as well to realize you've got to push yourself. But it is hard, and I think you need the network for that.
And then comes to my mind, like, how do you even, like, what do you say as a cybersecurity expert, or like, how do you actually say that someone is a cybersecurity expert if today cybersecurity is basically, part of anything really? You can be toaster cybersecurity expert, you can be refrigerator cybersecurity expert, you can pretty much be any kind of way. Like there's so many different, like I think I don't know any other field which has so many different slices of different like specialities, like web applications, IoT, information security in general, the policies, compliance. Geez, it's like, I think it's impossible for someone to be able to cover everything, so.
I completely agree. And this is where, on the warfare side, I get very confused when we keep talking about cyber warfare. Bloody hell, what's that? That sounds scary. Because again, there are so many layers and so many different disciplines me and you are very good at our job. If you gave us an F-22 or an F-35 and said, is that vulnerable? I don't know. It's got wings on it, and it's got I wouldn't have a bloody clue. But it is a problem. And and again, throw Estonian law at me, and I'm confused. And all of those letters are in the wrong order, and completely confuses me. Yeah. So the approach is hard, and it. Going back to my same point, is that's where the network is so important, to trust people that are good in all of these areas, and to not let it beat your ego with the fact that you are never going to be the best. but we can be collectively better if we all work together. But anybody that says I am one of the, I heard one the other day who said I'm one of the top 50 cyber experts in the world. Bloody hell. Ooh. I wouldn't want to say that statement. I would sufficiently back away from that because that would be like Stephen Hawking saying he knows all science.
Yeah.
Which is a very, very wide point.
Yeah, that's really true.
So I've got one question there about the cybersecurity in an organization has to be a culture. It does. It does have to be a culture, but how you do it, that's important because I've seen a lot of these like LinkedIn posts and people come up with the approaches to bring cybersecurity within the hub of the company. What works in America for a FTSE 100 large company will not work here at all. Make sure it fits your company. You know your company. Whatever works for your organization. The American approach is very much very talking and engaging, and they do coffee mornings and big discussion party type things in a number of their events, mentioning the topic. I've lived in Estonia enough to know that the idea of doing social gatherings without alcohol is not generally considered. And
sauna.
Yes, yeah. Sauna, that might work actually, yeah, security sauna, yeah. But what I would say is look at your organization, see how it works, and then don't try and change your organization to the culture, bring culture to your organization. Understand how to make it fit and connect in so you're within the jigsaw piece. What bit did you want to know, Christian, about my origin story, other than my mummy and daddy loved each other very much?
He completely told us already that he popped out of Matrix.
Yes.
That was the whole story. I actually was thinking that I would like to know what's in your mind would be the biggest challenges in the upcoming next 5 years in the cybersecurity field, and what do you think will, like, is there going to be a change in the threat landscape? What do you really think would be the kind of biggest challenges in terms of what we're going to face over the next 5 years?
Well, it's always good to end on a negative point.
Yes.
The one thing I can see that has definitely been accelerated from now is with COVID. The traditional SOC is dead. There's no way this can continue. Yes, it worked in the past, but now it can't because most people are using cloud third-party providers. Pretty much everybody's remote. And is everybody using a VPN? That's always good to ask a question to this. Are you using your organization VPN users? Please write yes or no in the box and let's gauge an opinion. A lot of times the traditional responses that we've got is we've got a intrusion detection system and a firewall protecting the firewall management console. All of the users are out of it, and all of the services are out of it. So I think the SOC will change to a lot of log analytics. You've got the ability to take a number of these logs from outside and to actually do some forensic data on them. I can see that will be a big area of it. But the other side is and it's really been accelerated by COVID, the dividing line between private and public and your private life and work life is dead. It's gone. We've got, I won't say which ones, but there are military organizations out there relying on WhatsApp and Facebook Messenger. There are companies relying on Facebook Messenger. Email has become the new storage mechanism. People are emailing their passports in good old SMTP 25 plain from accounts. People have, and I understand it, working from home, you're working remotely, you've not done it before, and the facilities aren't there. Some organizations, yes, they recommend you use a VPN, but they haven't paid for the licenses. And then using, like, for example, the Cisco VPN. It's going to get a lot more complex than we're used to. The aggressors that are coming up from our side they're not caring about the dividing line. We are. We just need to look at the news and see that lovely gentleman in the United States that forgot he was on a Zoom call while he was participating in extracurricular activities. But putting the joking side of it, people are always checking Facebook and Gmail and their own personal accounts on work computers. They're now working from home. This makes it a lot more complicated. And we make it more complicated. Exactly. You've got 3 different MS accounts. You're logged in all of the time. Teams are happening. My phone battery life in the last 6 months has gone from 2 days to about 30 minutes because I'm running Zoom, BBME, ICQ, WhatsApp, Signal, Telegram, Teams, Skype for Business, Skype. It's a complete mess. Yeah. So, and it's only going to get worse, I'm afraid. We're going to have to be a lot more creative. And it kind of takes 2 things from us. Is one, we need to understand what our digital footprint is now, which is everything. And we're starting to see that happen with cybersecurity companies realizing that zero trust is the way ahead. This idea of a lovely walled garden. Where is it? I've not seen these lovely gardens anymore. It's scattered, it's all over the place. A great example was from my friend in Australia. He said he's got the world's greatest security at his company that he works with, but his home router hasn't been patched in 4 years and it's the same password that was written on the box. And then it's the same as everywhere else.
I mean, if the companies, like the people who work in the company are not properly protected, then the company can't be at all, that you can't actually claim it. I mean, and that's actually kind of brings me to the point that, I think right now there's no point for me to try to hack your device or, get into the mainframe, that kind of stuff. But it's just, just phishing and just doing social engineering basically gets me the results that I want, like 10 times easier and probably 10 times faster as well. And you can't put the firewall on a people.
And I'm sure you've had it where I've been called in to do a test because they've had an incident and then they really don't like the answer, which is, well, how did they get in? The front door. What did they use? The breach username and password that's on Have I Been Pwned?
Yeah.
Yes, but did they do any technical ninja stuff? No. Why would you? I mean,
yeah, exactly.
If I've got your username and password, I'm going in on the front door. I'm not going to bother doing all this ninja shit. I need your data. I've accessed your data. So there can be a pushback from companies because they don't like that answer. Mm-hmm. They want the answer to be exactly as you say. I've jumped through the matrix and set fire to a couple of things and opened up 27 terminals in green screen. Whereas it's so common of not that, I mean, even my Linux laptop here, it's got 1.8 billion usernames and passwords ready to grab. Most people are on it. And it's really great if they've got a lovely 3 monthly changing password policy, because I know it's exactly the same as the password I've got, but you change the number at the end by 1 digit.
Yeah.
So we'll get there.
Or you make it like simpler every single time, because it gets harder and harder to memorize the new password because you need to make it unique again. So I think this policy of having a new password every I still see companies use that. They're just forcing you to change password every 3 months or so. I think it's complete bullshit, especially if you are using password management tools that generate you just a 32 character blob. Why do
I completely agree. And I think we've got a lot to learn from the startup community as well. and it's a bit like the national story of Estonia. When you started out, you had less resources. So the resources you had, you used wisely. You don't have enough money to set up an industry-grade enterprise, lovely VPN behind a intruder detection system, behind a firewall. So what you do is you do the basics, and you get the basics right. Whereas what we kind of do is we get the lovely enterprise gear and forget they are tools. They are not magic boxes. They can't fix everything, and they don't stop everything. So we forget the basics. You just need to, I know me and you are on the same page on this, Oliver, but for everybody else, just go on Showdown and type in one of your friendly companies and just see how much crap is publicly exposed and on a lovely IP address with username of admin and connected up to serious cybersecurity companies and IT companies. There is so much rubbish out there, but it's because they're not doing the basics. I mean, if you're, for me, I mean, you're running a Linux distro with a fairly secure firewall on it, it's quite, as long as you keep patching up to date. I would much rather people were running an up-to-date operating system with a good local firewall maintained on it with an up-to-date antivirus signature than I would a VPN and an IPS. Definitely. But they're not as sexy and they don't cost £250,000. But I'm not saying, though, that they don't have a role. Of course they do, but they're nice to have. Making sure people have got new machines up to date, patched. It's the same with phones. It's, as long as you've got a new and shiny one and it's up to date and working well, I'm happy with it.
True. I think we should take the final questions and then pretty much wrap it up, because we actually have 1 minute left. I know we could just keep talking for hours, but I somehow need to, you know, find a way to leave something for the future discussions. Anyways, I'm not even sure which questions to take. So Kieren, you choose.
So from Crystal's one, ransomware, phishing, I think it's going to be a combination of all of them. And one of the things we can see that was detected from the States as well, in terms of actually how the technical avenue they're going on, which could probably start a conversation for 20 minutes with me and you, Oliver, so I warn in advance, was Olympic Destroyer. That was an amazing piece of malware. That was incredible, because it was probably the first time where we've looked at a piece of malware code and gone, this is completely destructive. There is absolutely no point of this other than destruction. There were no safeguards to stop it from destroying anything else. It was complete radicalization, and the targeted approach. And what was really interesting by it is they spent ages to make it look like it was coming from China and North Korea. And we did for about half a year. Even Kaspersky, he said it was definitely China, North Korean elements, and it wasn't. It was Russia, because they didn't have the Olympics participating in that period. But they put enough evidence for us to follow that took us off. So I think how we're going to have to understand it is the complete destructive nature of these things now. It started off with Michelangelo, and it slowly deteriorated to the point of where it will get to the point where critical infrastructure will die. We've started to see that this element happened with the German hospital, where they're actually looking for the perpetrators because they're doing them with under manslaughter charges. because it actually killed someone. Turns out the NIST levels are right. High is when somebody's life is either terminated or threatened, and we're going to get more of this as an issue. Bragi, I think the issue is, now, why should a single incident ruin your entire reputation? That would make people hide and nothing gets better.
That was actually my reply to Birgi, because she was writing this cryptic message.
Yes. I think that is spot on, actually. Yes, I think you're right. If we're going to do one thing, please, one thing, it is to demystify our skills, to actually be more transparent in what we do. I think that is so key, because let's be honest, most people think we just not only sit in the matrix, but we just drink coffee all day and moan about shit and make sure users don't do stuff. I think we need to kind of show them why we're doing it and how we're doing it. One of the areas you can do this, to break it down there, is when I do my exercises against live targets, it's not just cybersecurity people. We have students from all disciplines are allowed to do it, because it's easy to teach the low-level attacks. But as we're talking about, Oliver, the low-level attacks is what I'm actually more worried about, to be honest. Because if we can't protect against them, well, we've got no hope against the high ones anyway. So,
and there's the thing that you expect like super advanced things to hit you because you think that you're not stupid to miss something that is so simple, and then that actually makes you overlook the very simple stuff that eventually grab you from the ass.
Yeah, definitely. I also think there's another enemy that we do have to talk about. And I'm not talking about the intruder within. I'm talking about us. And since I should end on the point of where you cock up, I, as a super epic person, I had a hard drive completely encrypted with PGP to make sure, so it's already BitLocked, but all of the files on it PGP'd encrypted. 2 days ago, I deleted the private key completely by accident. Press delete, press confirm, and went, well, that's my backup's fucked. Instant, no enemy, no insights. Yep, done everything properly, got a backup in the cloud, got a backup and everything, but yeah, deleted the private key, the one single thing that can actually open all of these files. So it's not just the threat aggressor in China or Russia and the state actor, it's also ourselves to make sure that we do the backups, we do what we say we do properly, we do check they work, like I obviously didn't, and as make sure that we understand all of the areas of that we need to kind of do to bring ourselves up one level. Because I managed to screw myself over with that data set more than any hacker could have done just by deleting a private key.
I think that's a really good tone for the end, that basically we should all start from ourselves. I think security, like cybersecurity in general, I think should become essential for pretty much any people who, kind of use computers for whatever reason they have to do it. I guess nowadays, pretty much everyone has a phone. So I think everyone needs to have at least some essential understanding of how the things happen, what are the threats there, and to really, take don't just stay and wait that there's like these matrix people protecting you from all the threats, but to actually take your own kind of action and try to stay,
I think as good as possible. Important thing, as you say, is there's three categories. You've got to make sure that the cybersecurity people, they keep up to date and do the defense of the organization. They know their intruder detection system. They know their SIEM. They know their incident responses. They exercise them. But at the same time, that's not what they're trying to teach the users. The users are communicated basic good skills, and when it goes wrong, how to communicate that up really, really quickly. And also that the cybersecurity technical people must understand how humans work. Because
that's not very common.
It's not very common. But the one thing I can guarantee is that's where the hackers have spent most of their time.
Yeah.
Process hacking, working out how you do things, working out the right person to email at the right time to make sure that they click it. We saw so clearly at Cambridge that Friday after 3:00 in the afternoon, that was when we had our most incidents, because that's when most people aren't paying attention and they want to go home.
Yeah.
So the hackers learned that, we didn't. We thought it was a problem in our system. But when we actually looked at the data properly, it was like, well, actually, no, we need to change our working hours to make sure that we've got everybody on deck during these periods, because that's our spike. So I think it's a little bit of knowledge of the whole of everybody, but specializing in your area, but being open enough to communicate with everybody, your knowledge and knowing other people's areas of where they can help you.
I would really want to discuss with you also another topic that is from what I've heard a lot of people talk in the US especially, which is gatekeeping in the cybersecurity field, where new people can't really get in, even if they want to kind of provide some sort of support to the good side, and because of the gatekeeping, where there's experts who think they're not good enough to work on that field, don't let them in, and then these people might turn to the other side instead, which is actually kind of working in the opposite direction of what these experts should actually do, right? But I think we need to run another webinar with you to cover these topics.
I would absolutely love that. That's one of my favorite topics, because I think it's probably the best firewall we have in our industry, getting new people in. We constantly say, everybody join up, not you.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So basically in December, as we have these webinars, I think every second Thursday at 6 p.m. Cities today. Next time we have Christian Leotoits, who is actually running the Hackerspace and CTF Pärnu together with us. So he's actually, together with Oliver and a little bit of my help, opened a IT security specialist course in Pärnu vocational. I think it's called like that, basically a school in Pärnu, where you can actually study to become an IT security specialist. I think it was something like that. So he will share his story of, how he does that, what does he do when organizing CTF competitions, capture the flag competitions, and tells a bit about running a hackerspace as well. So this is going to be exciting as well. He's been actually going to a lot of CTFs in Europe as under ECSE, I think is the right word. Anyways, you can find all that information from Hackerspace Facebook page, but I'm going to also send you an email with that information. Thank you, Kieren, for joining. I think we're going to have another one somewhere in the beginning of the next year, because I think there's so much to talk about, and I would love to talk to you about the gatekeeping. Thank you, and I thank you all who found time late this evening or early in the morning to join us.
Anytime, my pleasure. And I have to admit, I am completely envious of your microphone. Love that.
Thank you.
Yeah. This makes this look rather crap.
You have time to improve for the next time.
I do, yes. Size does matter.
Okay, size does matter. Okay, bye.
See ya.
See you.